Of millions of people from the eastern industrial heartlands to near the northern border with Russia have been told to stay indoors as authorities battle to curb the outbreak. A 60-year-old Chinese woman who had traveled to Cebu and Bohol is the country's third positive 2019 novel coronavirus case, the Department of Health announced on Wednesday, February 5. Health Undersecretary Eric Domingo said the patient tested negative for samples taken on January 24 and was thus allowed to go back to China, but they recently tested a sample taken on January 23 from the patient which tested positive. By that time, the patient had already left the country for China. Domingo said that the woman left for China on January 31 in an AirAsia flight after the validated negative test results by the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine and by Australia, where the January 23 samples from the patient were also sent. But he said the department would do contact tracing for the passengers in the Cebu Pacific flight that the Chinese woman took in getting here from Wuhan, China via Hong Kong. They would also trace persons who may have had contact with the woman, including flight crew members, health workers, and hotel personnel, among others. She arrived in Cebu City via Hong Kong on January 20 and then went directly to Bohol thereafter, according to Domingo. Upon arrival, the patient felt unwell and stayed in her hotel.
The results arrived from Australia on January 29 and from RITM on January 30. And upon recovery, the patient was discharged and allowed to go home to China on January 31. Test na lahat ng samples from other PUIs. So all of the samples that were taken before the test was validated and done here at RITM. Kasi dati sinasala natin, no? Hindi kasi lahat pwede nating padala sa Australia noon. May protocol ang WHO na kung ilan lang ang pwede mong padala. So pinipili lang natin yung talagang mga very suspicious. But since then, we have tested all of them. And all of them have tested negative, except for this one. And their clinical explanation is that the patient was probably towards the end of the illness at that time. Kaya positive pa siya, pero in the subsequent niya was negative na, both at RITM and in Australia. So validated twice yung...
Domingo said that the DOH's Epidemiology Bureau has already initiated contact tracing of the persons whom the Chinese woman had possibly interacted with and those who were in close proximity, especially during the first leg of her trip in the country before her admission to the hospital.
The DOH would like to urge passengers from Cebu Pacific Flight 5J241 from Hong Kong to Cebu, both on January 20 and January 21, 2020. Cebu Pacific Flight DG6519 from Cebu to Dumaguete on January 21, 2020. And Philippine Airlines Flight PR2542 from Dumaguete to Manila on January 25, 2020 to cooperate with DOH representatives who will be getting in touch with them for assessment.
The Department of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday confirmed that a Filipino crew member on board a cruise ship docked in Japan has been tested positive for the 2019 novel coronavirus. The Diamond Princess cruise ship docked at the port of Yokohama was quarantined by the Japanese government when one of the passengers tested positive for the virus. The vessel was supposed to embark on an 8-day trip on Tuesday. The DFA said in a statement, since then and after this time, 10 persons on board the cruise ship, including one Filipino, have tested positive for the virus. Philippine Embassy in Tokyo Deputy Chief of Mission Robespierre Bolivar said the Filipino is now in a hospital in Japan for treatment. The embassy is in constant communication with the remaining Filipinos on board and is closely coordinating with Japanese authorities to provide them all possible assistance. As of posting, other passengers remain on board the ship for the required 14-day quarantine period. According to DFA, there are 538 Filipinos on board the cruise ship. The World Health Organization on Wednesday called for $675 million or 613 million euros in donation for a plan to fight the novel coronavirus, mainly through investment in countries considered particularly at risk.
Today we're launching a strategic preparedness and response plan to support countries to prevent, detect, and diagnose onward transmission. We're requesting $675 million to fund the plan for the next 3 months. 60 million of that is to fund WHO's operations. The rest is for the countries that are especially at risk.
A laboratory at Bangkok's Chulalongkorn University is racing against time to test samples of suspected coronavirus patients, as the virus originating from China has already infected 25 people in Thailand so far.
China or US or UK might develop on their own, but we try. We are ongoing to develop our own vaccine also. It's more open between each country to share the data, especially the data of the whole genome of the virus, because it is very, very important, not just only for develop the medicine, the drug. It's also important for developing the new vaccine.
Vietnam Airlines disinfects aircrafts operated for flights from mainland China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, and Bangkok, Thailand to Vietnam in order to prevent the spread of coronavirus and ensure the safety of passengers and flight crews. In a statement, Vietnam Airlines said other flights carrying passengers showing abnormal signs of health will be reported to the authorities and disinfected following procedure. In addition, in order to hinder the survivability and progress of nCoV, Vietnam Airlines will adjust the passenger cabin temperature to 26 degrees Celsius and maintain this level of temperature throughout the duration of all flights. Aircrafts which carried passengers showing signs of potential health problems are disinfected immediately upon landing at the apron before assuming or resuming operation for subsequent flights. The entire passenger cabin seating area, cockpit, flight attendants' preparation areas, and etc. are thoroughly disinfected. Areas that need the most thorough disinfection are those with high rates of direct hand contact, such as the luggage compartments and seat armrest, or anywhere passengers might directly touch, are also carefully disinfected and cleaned. 30 minutes after disinfection, aircraft can resume regular operation. After disinfection procedures, additional aircraft cleaning is carried out as usual. China turned down a request from Cambodia's leader Hun Sen to visit the epicenter of the deadly coronavirus outbreak to comfort stranded Cambodian students, as it could not properly arrange a trip to lock down Wuhan City, state media said Wednesday. Wuhan and surrounding Hubei province have reported hundreds of deaths and thousands of infections, and more than 53 million people are living under tough restrictions. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying said at a briefing Wednesday, considering the fact that Wuhan is doing all it can to fight the outbreak and given the tight schedule, a visit cannot be properly arranged at this moment. While many countries have sent aircraft to evacuate their citizens, veteran strongman and staunch Beijing ally Hun Sen has been criticized for insisting Cambodians should stay put. He has called for calm over the virus and last month threatened to kick out any reporters or officials wearing medical masks from a press briefing. Chinese state media reported the proposed visit to Wuhan was to show the students warmth and to make sure they are not scared of the novel coronavirus. Hun Sen did meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Wednesday, footage from state broadcaster CCTV showed. Cambodia has reported one case of the new coronavirus, a Chinese man who arrived in the country from Wuhan.
Mga kababayan, lalo na sa mga OFWs sa Middle East at North Africa, may good news kami para sa inyo. Mapapanood na ninyo ang Net25 at iba pang Filipino channels na hatid ng OSN sa presyong abot kaya. Libre na ang box at installation, walang admin fees at no extra charges. Saktong entertainment na sakto lang sa budget mo. Bumisita na sa pinakamalapit na OSN store o dealer and subscribe now! Sa Net25 at OSN, siguradong at home ka dito.
Welcome back. Overseas Filipino workers who are in Macau amid the novel coronavirus threat are affected by the nCoV isolation measures and travel ban. We have an update from Kit Wong.
As of today, February 4, the Macau government confirmed 10 cases of novel coronavirus.
As of the latest update, the Macau government has confirmed a 10th case of Wuhan coronavirus in the city, with one of the patients who was working in Galaxy Casino. The government has announced to have all casinos closed down for 2 weeks and will meet up with casino operators to urge them not to dismiss their staff or reduce their salaries during this difficult time.
At sa bahagi po ng mga OFW natin na nagtatrabaho po sa iba't ibang kumpanya dito po sa Macau, sila po ay nagbigay ng order sa kanilang mga kumpanya na forced leave o yun po yung tinatawag na walang bayad na pinauwi. Marami pong mga Pilipino o mga OFW na na-stuck at hindi na po makalabas ng Macau. Yung iba po ay nakalabas, ngunit ang problema po ay yung kanilang mga pagbalik dito dahil nga po sa flights ay isinarado na po ang pagpasok at paglabas ng Macau.
The Wuhan coronavirus outbreak has turned Macau into a ghost town. Last year, the city received almost 40 million visitors. Now, streets and squares once crowded with tourists from mainland China are empty. Fresh markets are closed, masks and sanitizing products are still in huge demand, and citizens avoid going out in the streets if not necessary. The resuming of school is delayed indefinitely, and as business is highly affected, shops are closed and workers are forced to take a leave without pay until further notice. Some employers are choosing to pay their domestic helpers to stay at home for work instead for taking a day off because they worried that their helpers would be infected with the virus outside and bringing it home unknowingly.
Ako po ay isang domestic helper na nagtatrabaho po dito sa Bansang Macau. Dahil po sa sitwasyon ngayon na lumalaganap na novel coronavirus, ay kami po na nagtatrabaho bilang kansabahay ay pinagbabawalan na po ng aming mga employer na lumabas po ng kanilang bahay. Wala na po kaming day off at hindi naman po ay natatakot po sila kasi gawa po ng baka kami mahawa ng sakit at kami po silang mahawa din at lalo na po ang kanilang mga anak. Ang aking pong ibang mga kaibigan ay ganun din po, pinagbabawalan na po sila ng kanilang mga amo na lumabas at pinipwersa na po ang bawat isa na mag-leave na wala pong bayad. Kaya po hindi po namin alam ang bawat isa sa amin kung kami po ay papapasukin pa po ng aming mga employer.
Reporting for Eagle News, this is Kit Wong, and I am 1 with 25.
Hundreds of pigs have died from African swine fever in Bali, authorities said Wednesday, marking the Indonesian holiday island's first recorded outbreak and after the virus claimed some 30,000 hogs in Sumatra. Ida Bagus Wisnuwardana, Bali's Agriculture and Food Security Agency chief, said nearly 900 pigs succumbed to swine fever since mid-December. The announcement comes after Indonesia said this week it would temporarily ban some livestock imports from China over fears about the coronavirus, which has killed almost 500 people in China, where it originated. In December, Indonesian officials said tens of thousands of pigs died from African swine fever in North Sumatra province. While Indonesia is the world's most populous Muslim nation and eating pork is forbidden by the Quran, the country also boasts a small non-Muslim majority in North Sumatra, and Bali is a Hindu island whose signature dish is roast pig. Indonesia's economy grew more slowly than expected last year, official data showed Wednesday, and officials warned the country's lucrative tourism sector faced a negative impact from a drop in Chinese tourists owing to the deadly coronavirus. Southeast Asia's biggest economy expanded 5.02%, down from 5.17% the previous year, owing to weakness in exports and softer manufacturing output. The figures also missed forecast for a 5.3% expansion. In December, the World Bank warned the forest fires, which raged across Indonesia last year, hit the economy to the tune of some $5.2 billion. The country was also grappling with slumping prices for key commodities such as coal and palm oil, as well as the effects of a China-U.S. trade war which has roiled economies around the world. Statistics agency head Suharyanto, who goes by one name, told reporters in Jakarta sustaining growth in a 5.0% range in the current environment isn't easy. Tourism officials have warned of a drop-off this year as Indonesia throws up barriers to Chinese visitors over fears of a coronavirus outbreak in the country. Some 2 million Chinese tourists visit Indonesia annually. Research house Oxford Economics also said the drop-off would take the steam off growth in the first half of 2020. Singapore on Tuesday announced the first local transmissions of the deadly coronavirus from China as a major aviation conference was scrapped due to the escalating health scare. The Ministry of Health said it had found 6 additional cases, 4 of them involving human-to-human transmission in Singapore, bringing the total infections to 24 in the city-state. 2 of the local transmissions cases involving women working at a health product shop primarily serving Chinese tourists. A third was one of the woman's Indonesian maid. Another was a female tour guide who had brought groups to the health shop. In addition to the local transmissions, 2 cases were among the Singapore residents evacuated from Wuhan on January 30. Meanwhile, a major international aviation conference scheduled for the eve of next week's Singapore Air Show has been cancelled, organizers said Tuesday. Organizers, however, said the main event, Asia's biggest air show, will proceed as scheduled from February 11 to 16, despite the pullout of several exhibitors, many of them from China. And that is latest news in the Southeast Asian nation. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Maricar Velasco and I am 1 with 25.